All right, good evening, guys. Ken of Tortoise Capital. This is the Daily Strategy Podcast for March 17th, 2020. Here's today's market. So we had the daily range opened, sold off, moved up smartly, faded just a little bit at the end. Had lots of trading opportunities in and around the day, so it is above Monday's opening, so that's a favorable. Although we're deep in the winter, we're at minus 32. Price closed just inside Z2, so we were down at Z2.5 at one point. You can see the 1-day range, the 10-day range, and the 30-day range. Price ends up at about still at the 30% sell-off mark. The upside is the the daily high, the dragon, the Bollinger Band mean. So this is still a day-by-day market, absolutely to the max. Today felt a little different than Monday, though. It felt like there was an orderly move, and I think the Fed and the Treasury announcing $1 trillion of cash support to individuals is about time. It's just about time. It's the minimum they can do. So we'll see how that goes. Some things that I traded today, the usual suspects. I talked last night about U.S. Steel. And so U.S. Steel closed here yesterday, opened up, sold off briefly, held support at the Dragon and the PSAR, and then gave me a 1, 2, 3 entry, and I bought it here at 550. And what I'm doing here is I set a tight stop at about 540, so that's 10 cents. And I just projected the PSAR here. Now, this was yesterday's high, and so I was looking at around 565, not adding before then, but if it could get above 565, then I was feeling pretty good about this position. The next entry was in SDOW, so that's the inverse short Dow. So this one was a gap down because the market had gapped up, and this moved up. So bought one, tested that morning's Z3. That was the peak of the RL10. Came back, found support inside the Dragon, and then took out the RL10 and the previous Z3. So I bought a second position. While I was doing that, I moved up my stop to here. This is about a break-even stop at the moment of entry. If it scratches both, then that turns out to be a scratch trade. So it was just above the VWAP. So that was getting started. Now, a little bit later, that trade, basically I'm able to exit this around 78.50-ish on both of those for a fractional win. And I want to show you the inverse in SDOW. So while UDOW is going down, that SDOW position is going up, and the other one is going up till about 10 o'clock. And then right about 10:04 Eastern time, we get this move here, and this was a PSAR flip. The RL10 started to roll up, the 90 started to roll up, the 30 started to roll up. So this is right on the edge of a Dragon. So I basically bought the RLXD here at about 34.60. My tight stop here at 34, so that's about a 60-cent initial risk for execution. That's an indication I will stop and reverse. I will, on this one, I'm looking to add a second position if it gets across Z1 or the VWAP. So that's where I would add a second position right about here. And then I would add a third position if it's able to take out the previous hump of the Dragon and basically this whole VWAP at the start of the day. So I'm looking to add a position about 36.50 and adding a third position about 37.75. So that's the trade frame on that one. This is SVXY, so this is the inverse volatility. So this also is hitting right around about 1010. This was lagging a little bit behind the reversal in the Dow, and so right about 1010 ish or 1008, I get a PSAR flip, I get an RLXD, I get essentially an owl entry would be right about here where the purple line is, but I'm taking the RLXD entry with about a 15-cent initial risk. The belly of the dragon's at 28.05. My entry's at 28.15, so that'd be 10 cents to the dotted line, 15 cents or so to the PSAR flip. I would also go short on that one, and I'm looking to add a second position on this one if it gets above 28.60. And my upside target on this one is where the VWAP was looking before this sell-off occurred. So I was really looking to get to about 28.90 or about 29. And so right about this time, I'm looking to get to no lose plus dinner for 2 because it's getting to Z1. And it just went from the spring into the summer. So I'm starting to feel pretty good about this one. And this is where I'm making the move to get to no lose plus dinner for 2. So now this is UDOW. Does this have the? Yeah, okay. So this is what that trade looks like after the follow through. So here was the entry. I was talking before at 10:04 at about 34. This shows about 34.75, but my entry was around 34.60 as we saw before. Just an inaccuracy on that line. But I'm basically getting the RLXD inside here. So entry number 1 with a stop below the belly of the dragon and the PSAR. Never touched. The second automatic entry was the when it crossed the VWAP at like 36.50 by this time. And then the third entry when it had cleared the about the hump of the dragon, so about 37.50. And so now I've got 3 positions in on this one. So on an initial 60-cent risk, this thing at this point is trading at 38.75. So that's a $4 move on the first position. That's $4 from here to there on a 60-cent execution risk. So that's about 7 execution R. This one's about 5 execution R. And this is about 2 to 3 execution R. So that's about 13 execution Rs on the move to 38.75. And now what I've done is I noticed that we have gone, this was a spring entry. It got to the summer, held at the 0 line, gave me another long summer. And now we're at fall, and it's just getting ready to test this Red River right up in here. So now I moved my stop to just below the 2-bar low. And now I'm cautious because we just got the PSAR flip. And although this is a 1, 2, 3, I'm not going to add a 4th position on this one. I'm really just trying to manage this. And I'm going to try to keep as much of that on the 3 positions as I can. So that one paid off pretty well. This is the that U.S. Steel. The Courage play at 550 with about a 10-cent risk. And then the second position when it takes out, here's one hump of the RL10, second hump. And so the second position like at 568-ish. And now it makes a nice run up to 610, pulls back, it holds on this PSAR above the VWAP. And I'm holding all the way through this RL270. This was a tense moment right here. It gave me a little burst. And so I tightened up my stop to 595, and I've locked that in. Now, if it gets above 610 or 615, I would think about adding a 3rd position. But right now, I really just want to kind of lock that in. So my, the thought experiment on this one is with a 10-cent risk and $400 of risk per trade, that's 4,000 shares here and 4,000 shares here. Total cost of that position about $40K, and now we're holding about let's see, from 550 to 595 is 45 cents, and 30 cents. So that's about 75 cents on 8,000 shares. So that's $6,000 in hand right here on U.S. Steel. Just saying. This is the follow through now on SVXY. This was that so the entry around 10:08, and the stop was at below the belly of the dragon, never touched. So entering around 28.20, second position on the Z3 breakout after it crosses over the VWAP at 28.70, and now it's at 29.10. We've locked in about 29. So that is on a that's about, let's call it a 20-cent initial risk, and it's holding 80 cents off the first one and 30 cents, well actually 40 cents off the second one. So it's $1.20 total capture on a 20-cent initial risks. So that's 6 execution hours in hand. So a really good morning move in our favor there. This one was Simon Property Group, and I talked about that one last night as being a long-term suffering aspect of commercial real estate, that the economic slowdown is absolutely going to crush small businesses and their ability to pay rents to landlords, and so the whole commercial property is going to be in a bear market for at least 2 years in my view. And so this one was a hybrid frog entry. So we got the open up here in the VWAP and it sells off, and this is about call it $2. So short at about 66, collapsing dragon at 62.50, third collapsing dragon at 60, and then covering everything at 55. So that is that's $10. That is $7, and this one is $4. So $10.74, $21 on $2 of initial risk per share. So that's 11 execution R to the RLXD entry. I'm not offended if you take this exit, but then you have to get short on the collapsing dragon. So we're going to call that 10 to 11 execution R on that leg. Now, this is the owl entry. It takes that long for the 30 to reverse, so you get long then at 57.50, add a second position at 61.50 when it crosses the VWAP, and then take the second RLXD entry exit here at 65. So on about a another $2 risk, this one captures from 58 to 65. 50 is $7, and this is about $3, so that's 10 on 2. So that's another 5. So this is 11, and this is 5. So that's 16 execution R intraday. I was mentally tired, and I considered this one, but I had other fish to fry with the indexes, and my span of control was not available, so I lacked the will on that one. Let me see. Yeah. So this is one I want to talk about now. This is a flashcard on the regression line fractal framework. But let me just go back and say that's almost 30R intraday. There's no reason to be risky with the overnight trade. So I could save some of that money and pay for the swing positions. But right now, in bearish volatile markets, which is where we are, I just don't see the reason to have to do that. Now, what I want to show on this one is like the principles of regression line fractal. And what we're really doing, we're going to compare the RL10, the blue line, which is the smoothed price, to the VWAP and then to the RL270, which we take as the long-term fair value. All I've marked off here is just the excursion from the VWAP. So you can see this run down here left the VWAP behind. So it was, traders were pushing this down faster than the VWAP could follow, and it sets up this difference in the opinion on fair value between what the traders are pushing it at and what the VWAP says it's going to come back and settle to. So it gets the length of this reddish box. Now that reddish box goes from about 33 to 35. as you can see over. So all these boxes are the same size. So that's about a $2 difference in opinion between where the trade is priced at and then what the VWAP is. So here's the VWAP magnet. Now, then when it settles down into this kind of sideways, quiet-looking channel-ish thing, so the RL90 turns and now everything's back inside the Z3 lines. It's $2 from Z3 to Z3. And this is where price crosses the VWAP, and there's a low and then a higher low. And now it takes off on the next move up. And by the time it peaks with this double top, the top of the dragon and that the two RL10s, they're back to the VWAP, is a $2 excursion in the other direction. So I want you to notice the $2 matters in UDOW. So if you got something like a 50-cent execution risk, like on a turning point, you decided to buy here and you had a 50-cent risk, you're really looking at completing the trade, so you got $1.50 to the upside. So that's kind of how you can use the estimate of the standard leg or the standard chunk, or call it a minimum manageable risk box or a trade leg. That's about the distance from the belly of the RL10 to the peak of the RL10, from the belly of the dragon to the peak of the dragon, is about $2 in these different surges on 1 minute charts. So the excursion from the VWAP to the top here is about $2. Here, at the point of maximum divergence, you have one box and then two boxes. So this second leg up was double the size of the first leg. And so even though it comes back two legs to the VWAP and holds, later in the day it's going to go right back up to 42 and then come back to 37, and then it's going to go and close about 41.50 by the time all is said and done. Okay, so I just want you to notice that you can use this sort of as a calibrated estimate on where price could go to given the relative power of bulls and bears to push price around. So at this moment, when I'm stalking this trade, I'm saying if it finds support at the VWAP, an excursion back to 42 would not be surprising. That's two legs up. It could at least get to one leg up, which would be about 40. And so if I can buy it here at 38 and play to 40 with a 50-cent stop, I don't mind that trade. And then if I get two legs up, it'll be this move to 42. And we've already seen a move of that magnitude just today, so that wouldn't be surprising. And then a failure back to 30, call it 35.50, wouldn't be surprising because that's where the VWAP was earlier today and spent a lot of time down here. So this little trade frame, you can see there's two to the upside, but if it fails, there's a trade to the downside, and it could go two legs down and then go test the low of the day. Then if that collapsed, it could go another $2 to $4 down. So that's how you can use the width from Z to Z, or the size of this maximum excursion from the VWAP to the belly or the peak of the RL10. You can start calibrating the size of those moves. Here was Wynn Resorts. So this one is one I just think, all the casinos are asking for bailouts, and they probably have film on all of the congressmen, so it wouldn't surprise me to see that work. But here's another hybrid frog in the morning on a frog champion. So it opens around 57.50. I get short about 55. So that's about $2.50. So get short at 55, cover on the RLXD at 49. So that's about a 55 to 49. It's $6 on 3. $6 on 2. So that's about 3 execution R. I tried getting short here on it. It hit the VWAP and started to fail. So I got short the RLXD. It didn't. And then it crossed back up and came to the VWAP. So I took that hit. Then it rejected the VWAP. I tried to get short again. I got hit. It held support at the RL270, so I tried getting long. It started to fail. So I got 3 little fractionals right in a row. That's about half an R of execution compared to about 3 execution R's in the bag. So those 3 failures cost me a half. This one gain netted me 3. So this thing is paying for a couple chances. So then this one is the owl entry, and it's cleared the Z3 lines, and it's across the VWAP again, and then this one pays off. So this gets a couple execution R and I buy the RLXD, and then it rejects at the same price that it collapsed at. I had other things going on, and I had run out of will by this time. And then I got on the Z3 excursion, bought this one at the VWAP with a tight stop, added a second position when it cleared the Z3. It got to this point, I locked in the second one. This ended up exiting somewhere around 56, I believe, by the time it got done. So that was a pretty reasonable series in win. I just want to point out the value of having money in hand and getting well started and using that to maintain my will to be able to keep going. That enabled me to pay for all three of those and more with this one and then with those two. Whereas if you're trying to be right and you get three in a row that are wrong, you might just leave this in disgust. I just keep paying the ante and seeing the cards and mucking them if it's not working. So those were the trades of the day. I want to shift now to the speed run. Hey, first, we'll just do a quick, if we can, a percentage play, if this will let me. It's not letting me sort. Come on now, work with me. That's not letting me sort for some reason. All right, so let's just do the speed run then. Can you see the? Oh, it says it's not. I'm sorry, it's not connected. Just a minute. I have to refresh the. I have to refresh that. Sorry. All right, so on the speed run, here's the sorted by sectors. You can see the S&P at plus 5%. Brazil was the one that got away at 13% up, and Walmart was awesome today. It was brilliant. So I'm going to go through the quick speed run, and we'll see how that goes. Okay. All right, so here's Alcoa. All right, here's Alcoa. We're just stalking that one. XL, it didn't close particularly well, but XLB was fine. This is next up is Apple. Apple, we're just stalking. The Aussie dollar, I'm short one, and I moved the stop down to here, just above the close. So we've locked in a nice play on that. On Boeing, covered today. So we were short from yesterday. It opened high, sold off hard, and as it was coming back, I just took this exit here, halfway up the Z ladder. So we're flat on that one. I'm now setting up Caterpillar as a long or a short from this yellow box. So here was today's range, and I'm setting up the short from here. All the ones where you see these yellow boxes with no price, that's one where I'm setting up the trade frame for tomorrow. This is, hopefully it opens up inside there and then takes the breakout. So Cliff, I'm ready to break out in either direction. Cut, I'm ready to break out in either direction. Diamonds, we're trading intraday. Devon Energy, I'm short one. I'm going to move my stop down to here. Emerging markets, I'll play the breakout. EFA, I will play the breakout. This is Japan. I got long Japan today, so that was the. I liked the way it opened at the high of the day yesterday, sold off quickly, and then resumed. So I'm going to buy this is the trade that I'm going to make there. I'm long Japan with a tight stop on a swing. I have some belief in them being able to. They are controlling the coronavirus better than just about anybody. Mexico, I got short yesterday, and they just basically covered it today. There were a lot of gains today. Brazil, I will play the breakout and the breakdown like this tomorrow. This is Home Depot. Why is that? Okay, so we were short one and covered today. Russell, we were short one, covered today. Real estate, we were short one, covered today, had a nice rebound intraday. So I was cashing them while I could. McDonald's, I've set up a trade frame for tomorrow. I'm ready to break out in either direction. We were short one and then just got lost in the... it opened, sold off, and then took out, and I was losing money on that one, so I just took a minor loss on the clean energy. SCO, we sold half here, and I'm moving the stop up to here on the second half. SDOW is intraday only. We're short one today from in Virgin Galactic, and my stop is at just above today's high. So that's a speculative short. Simon Property Group, we got short one yesterday. It sold off nicely today, and I've moved my stop down just above the open, so we'll lock in a gain there. SVXY is an intraday. Treasuries, just stalking it. There was a good intraday move on that one that I wasn't playing. Span of control. We were short two on Tesla, so I took the second short today, but then it had a nice, as it was selling off, and then had a nice rebound, so I just cashed both of those. I just felt like today was a positive day in the market because it didn't fail after Monday's debacle. And with the Fed pumping some money and the futures were up in the afternoon after the close, it just felt like it looked like it was tomorrow could be an up day. I wanted to get basically market neutral. UDOW is intraday, just watching natural gas, watching oil continue to fail. UVXY, we're holding a double-sized swing position that's been paid for with markets money, so these are free shares. And I'm just trailing that with like a 2-day low. So I moved my stop up to here. Yesterday the stop was down here, and I'm just using a 2-day low on that one. And I'll just take the exit in all of them whenever that hits. VIX intraday only. Wiz is still broken. Walmart was, I got long at, so I had set Walmart up for a trade frame in here, but it gapped up. Along with the rest of the market, so it was so good and better than the opening gap, so I just bought it here and had my stop down here at the yesterday's the top of that range. So this is my, and I'm then adjusted that execution to the low of the day, so my stop is now here, and I'm long from here, and I'm hoping to add a second position up here. So Walmart's winning. Wheaton, man, I just that has had some crazy intraday volatility. It went from 28 to 1850, and then all the way back up to 29 today. The intraday trade's available, but man, impossible as a swing trade, just not working. Wynn Resorts, I was short one. It had a sell-off and then started recovering, and that's when the announcement about Fed money coming, and I just felt like they were going to get some money too, and so I just wanted to cash it while I could. And you saw the intraday on that one. U.S. Steel is a keeper for me. I owe you a better recording on all this. So U.S. Steel, you saw the intraday trade. I'm keeping a piece on that one on as a swing trade from 550. XLB, the materials did pretty well today. I covered the short yesterday. I missed the long, but I had other things I was doing. So that's one that I think I would actually play like this. I think I'm ready to play that on the long side. So here, and here for tomorrow. So if it opens up inside this range, I'm ready to go along with it. Energy, I'm just stalking and watching. So if I was going to trade it, it would look like this. Financials, I got long one today with all that money being pumped. You just got to figure that's going to go well. So I basically, it opened, sold off. I bought the resumption and the strength on going into the close. So that's my trade frame there in financials. Technology, I'm just watching. I just don't know yet. I had enough other positions on the long side. And healthcare, I love them to death. They're my heroes, but we'll see how that goes. So that's everything I want to cover tonight. I'll get the daily reports out. I'm just having all sorts of trouble with the internet tonight, so we'll get this posted and pushed on YouTube. I appreciate you hanging in there. That's everything I got for you tonight, guys. So take good care. See you in the chat room and on Patreon.